Hey guys, well that's annoying. I just recorded a live game against a player rated just under 1,000 and gave my commentary and tips on how to fight giants at the end of it, and then realised that my microphone was on mute the whole time, so you didn't get any of it, so I'm going to have to re-record it. Okay, but it's not a long game, but there are some useful tips in here. And I do find in general that whenever you have to do something a second time, you know, like the dog eats your homework, you have to rewrite it, it generally comes out better. So hopefully you'll get some benefit from this. Okay, so I'm rated just under 1,400. My opponent's rated 963 at this point in time. This is a 30-minute rapid game. And they have the white pieces. And they start with e4, I play e5. And now we have the bishop's opening. So the bishop comes out to c4. I play knight to f6, targeting this undefended pawn. Okay, they spot that, knight to c3, defends the pawn. Okay, so far absolutely so good. So now I bring my bishop out. The knight isn't pinned, but I'm threatening to remove the defender. If I can capture the knight, I might then be able to grab the pawn and be a pawn up. And now we have a bishop sacrifice, and this caused me, you know, to think. I had to stop and think, well, what's the purpose of this? Because, quite honestly, I think this is generally a bit of a beginner mistake, because there's no queen out, there's nothing else in this attack. This is a lone fighter, right? It's like that bit in Star Wars when they come up to where the Death Star is, where Alderaan used to be, and they see one little fighter out in space on its own, and you know they're thinking, should we just knock it out of the sky? And what's it doing there? That's a short-range fighter. You know, so I have a think for a bit, and grab the bishop, and now we have pawn to f4. Now this is another undefended piece. So again, I have a look. I look for threats. Now, what white hasn't done here is he hasn't developed his pieces. So he's attacking with one piece at a time. You can't do that in chess. That don't work. So I grab the pawn. And now we have knight to f3, preparing to castle. Okay, now I play rook e8. So clearly my king is slightly exposed here, and also I've got a lot of wood there that hasn't entered the game. We've got two pieces out on the board each right now. Okay, but I do want to get my king safe, so I'm thinking an artificial castle here would make sense. Now at this point, this move actually pins the knight. You'll notice with d3. So there is now a path to the king. So the knight now cannot legally move, right? So here I spot a tactic. And this is it. And it depends on the pin on this knight, okay? So I'm thinking, what if I grab that pawn? Yeah, and also notice this pawn here on f4. Just awkwardly placed, but actually could be useful, right? So if I grab the pawn, if pawn recaptures, I can capture with the rook. So I've given up a knight for a knight for two pawns, okay, and white is in check. So how does white get out of check? Right, this knight here can't block. That's pointless. This knight here is pinned, so can't move. If the queen were to move in front of there, rook takes queen, I'm happy. Yeah, and then the king has to recapture. Or if the bishop blocks, I've got pawn takes. Okay, so I figured that out. That took me 55 seconds. Okay, this point in time, notice I've used 2 minutes of my time. My opponent's used 40 seconds. So I grab the pawn. Now he thinks for 11 more seconds and decides to castle. Okay, so I grab this knight here. Pawn captures, so I've won another pawn now. I'm now a bishop and two pawns in front. And clearly I'm attacking this rook here. And now, what's the timestamp on this? 9.3 seconds. In a 30-minute game, remember, bishop takes f4. Okay, so I take a minute and 16 and think, is there something going on here, right? Nope, I grab the rook. And now queen takes bishop. So now I'm up actually a full rook and a pawn at this point in time. So now I push d6. Now the point of this move is I'm slightly worried that we have the queen on this nice long diagonal. I'm completely undeveloped. The only piece I've developed is my blooming king, which is not the ideal, right? And I'm just concerned about white somehow getting the bishop and the queen onto this deadly diagonal here. The knight coming in, it could potentially blow up. I could be the victim of a surprise attack, right? Not by the way the game's been going so far, because my opponent seems to prefer to attack with one piece at a time. Also, I have to be conscious that the rook is lined up with my king, so should these two pieces move, there could be discovered checks, okay? And that's how you think, right? That's how players above 1,000 are thinking. They're thinking about threats. You've got to consider threats. Okay, so I put my pawn here on d6 to take this square away from the knight and the bishop. I don't want either of these moving to this square. All right, knight could come in with check, maybe discoveries. We don't want all that. So the knight actually comes now. So now there is an immediate threat of discovered check. So for example, this would be horrible because I have to get out of check. I can't capture the bishop. I would lose my queen. So king g8, pretty much forced. Now the bishop attacks my queen, but can you see the flaw? How long did this take? 6.7 seconds. 6.7 seconds. And I spend a minute on this because my first thought is, oh no, my queen, I better go straight to d7. That's forced, yeah? And then I realised, actually, he's moved his bishop to a place where it's not even defended, so I grabbed the bishop. And now I'm 9 points up in material. And knight comes back here and attacks my queen, but then my opponent just resigns. Okay, he spent 2 minutes 5 seconds in a 30-minute game. Now, I do think it's a good idea to play against higher rated opponents. I spend too much time playing against lower rated opponents so that I can make videos on how people play at different rating levels and how they can improve at different rating levels. But if I wanted to improve my chess as quickly as possible, I do believe, and I've said it before and I'll say it many times again, I do believe the best way to do that is to play against the strongest opponents you can find. And there are a few reasons for that. One is that when you are significantly higher rated, like 100, 200, 300 points higher than somebody else, it's almost like you feel like you deserve those 1 or 2 rating points that you might get for the win. It's like, I'm worth it. I deserve these rating points, so let me have them as quickly as possible and we can all move on and get on with our day. Okay. So for that reason, the higher rated opponent player is going to be more inclined to rush their moves and not think it through. They are going to think, I'm going to walk this because I have more experience, because my instincts are just better honed. All right, but that's not all it is in chess. Right? If that was the case, then grandmasters wouldn't be spending all day on a game of chess. Yeah, they know chess better than anyone. But when you're in that situation, and when you've got two grandmasters against each other, they really, really do have to think because they're both thinking that far deeper. Right? So the high-rated player is going to be inclined to spend less time on their moves because they want to grab the points and go. Yeah. The other reason is, of course, that if you win against a high-rated opponent, you win more points, which is good. And if you lose, but you're playing a higher-rated opponent, you lose fewer points, which is good. Right? So what's not to like? So my advice here is, and I think this game is a great example of that, because this guy, rated nearly 1,000, knows how the game works, will know their basic tactics, okay? Lost in 2 minutes 5 seconds. And I took 7 minutes 5 seconds on my play. And that's a big part of why I won. Right? He made stupid moves. He blundered pieces. But he blundered pieces because he rushed. Because he didn't do the sanity check. He didn't do the goldfish and check what was defending what on every move. And he's got 30 minutes. So if you're going to play a 30-minute game, you should use the entire bloody 30 minutes. Spend roughly 10 minutes on the opening, 10 minutes on the middle game, 10 minutes on the ending. Right? Roughly. They're all important. One thing I see with lower rated players is they very often rush the opening moves, thinking that they don't matter that much, they don't really count, end up behind or compromised, and end up having to spend most of their time in the middle game just trying to rescue a bad situation, and then probably go on and rush again in the ending, right? That's not how master level players roll. And just check out one or two games by IMs or GMs online, and you'll see how much more time they spend over these opening moves, unless they completely know the theory, which is a different matter entirely. We don't. We need to think, okay? So my big tip is, my advice is probably take a week and play only higher rated players, like 50, 100 points higher rated than you, because then you are training against people stronger than you. And if you want to get stronger, right, if you want to be a good boxer, right, you don't want to train against people 2 weight categories below you, right, who are skinny and feeble and can't hurt you. You want to be training and sparring against stronger opponents who are got more skill, more power, right, and will force you to play your best. And the other big tip is play longer time controls, so play 15, 10, 30 minute, 60 minute, and take your time. Set out to frustrate that person. I've beaten a 2000 rated player at Rapid, and you can look it up. It was even with the Black Lion defense, so I'm playing black, and it it's not an easy opening or system to play. But I beat this player, and he had plenty of time left on the clock, and I beat this 2000 because he was rushing his moves. He thought he was entitled to the win, but he wasn't. I took my time. I was more careful. Yeah, I watched my back. I double checked everything, and I got the victory. Right, and that's how it works. That's how it's going to happen. So play stronger people. Set out to use all the time that you're given. Okay, this guy's playing like he's playing Blitz. He's playing this like a 5-minute Blitz game, right? To be this far into the middle game after 3 minutes, he's playing like it's 5-minute Blitz, right? I'm trying to play a 30-minute Rapid game. So if you've got a stronger, high-rated opponent who is going to be very much inclined to rush their moves because it's only worth 1 or 2 points or 3 points or whatever, if they win, they just want to grab the points and go, like we say. Take your 30 minutes. You can say, okay, you can play Blitz if you want. I'm playing Rapid, thank you very much. I'm going to take as long as I can, and I'm going to find the best moves that I'm capable. I bet you this player here could not put his hand on his heart and say, I played the best moves that I was capable of finding. No way. And the reason I know that is he's got 27 minutes, 55 seconds left on his stupid clock at the end of it. Right? It doesn't take much to say, okay, well, my bishop attacks the queen, but hey, wait a minute, my bishop isn't defended. Right? Is this player capable of figuring that out? Of course he is. Are you? Yes. Am I? Yes. We can all figure that out. It's all there on the board. It's only 8 by 8, 64 squares, right? And however many 32 pieces on the board. All the information's right there in front of you. I think the biggest issue here is that beginners, it's not that they're not able to figure out the tactics, it's that they can't be asked. I cannot be bothered to sit there and take 20 extra seconds and check that this bishop move, right, isn't a completely stupid blunder, which it was, right? So what you do, if you're white, you put that there and there's oh no, hang on, right? He actually took 23 seconds over that move. That was almost that was the longest he took of any move in the game. And it was a blunder. Just threw it away, right? No reason for that. Don't do it. Take your time, commit. Even if it means you play 1 game a day, go out giant killing. Let's all do it. Let's all do it for a week, right? We're only going to play stronger rated, high rated opponents, right? We're going to play long time controls, and we're going to frustrate the piss out of them. Yeah? And let's do it. Let's do it as an experiment, all of us, right? And then report back. So we'll put down in the comments, yeah, I did this for a week. My rating went from X to Y. And if you lose, and you will lose, yeah, maybe you lose 2/3 of the time, but your rating might still go up, even if you're losing 2/3 of the time. That could be interesting. So let's give it a go. 1 week of playing only high-rated opponents, and we'll report back at the end and see how we get on. Okay, you up for that? Fantastic. Okay, well, thank you for watching. Please subscribe to Chess Bootcamp if you are not a subscriber, and I'll see you soon.